In the jungles of New Guinea, a local politician named Yali asked the scientist Jared Diamond a simple but profound question. Why is it, he asked, that you white people developed so much cargo and brought it to New Guinea, but we black people had little cargo of our own? Cargo, in this context, meant technology, wealth, and power. It is a question that has haunted humanity for centuries. Why did history unfold so differently on different continents? Why did the societies of Eurasia conquer the societies of the Americas, Africa, and Australia, and not the other way around? For centuries, the answers to this question were often ugly, based on racist and abhorrent theories about the supposed biological superiority of certain peoples. In his Pulitzer Prize-winning masterpiece Guns, Germs, and Steel, Jared Diamond sets out to provide a new, scientific, and powerful answer. And his answer has nothing to do with the intelligence or ingenuity of the people themselves. It has everything to do with the raw materials of geography. Today on Geeky Philosopher, we are going on an epic journey across 13,000 years of human history to solve Yali's question. This is not just a history book, it is a profound scientific argument that will change how you see the map of the world forever. The first and most important thing to understand is that for most of our history, there were no major differences between human populations. Around 13,000 years ago, at the end of the last ice age, people on all continents were living in small nomadic bands of hunter-gatherers. The playing field was essentially level. But then, in a few select places in the world, a revolution occurred that would change the course of human history forever: the agricultural revolution. The ability to domesticate plants and animals was the single most important turning point. Why? Because farming, for the first time, allowed for the creation of a food surplus. A food surplus is the foundation of all complex societies. When you have a surplus, not everyone has to be a farmer. This allows for the rise of specialists, soldiers, priests, kings, bureaucrats, and crucially, inventors. A society of farmers cannot invent steel. A society with a food surplus can. So the ultimate question of the book is not why did some societies develop technology? The real ultimate question is, why did the agricultural revolution happen in some places and not in others? The answer is not people, it's the land itself. Diamond argues that the inhabitants of Eurasia didn't invent farming because they were smarter. They invented farming because they won the Geographic Lottery. They just happened to live on a continent that was blessed with an abundance of easily domesticable plants and animals. Of the thousands of wild plant species in the world, only a handful are suitable for large-scale farming. The wild ancestors of wheat and barley, for example, were abundant in the Fertile Crescent in the Middle East. You know, the story of animal domestication is even more stark. Diamond introduces what's called the Anna Karenina principle. To be successfully domesticated, a wild animal needs to have a whole suite of specific traits. They need to have a calm temperament, a social hierarchy, a willingness to breed in captivity, and so on. If they fail on even one of these criteria, domestication is, well, pretty much impossible. He shows that out of all the 148 large terrestrial herbivorous mammal species on Earth, only 14 have ever been successfully domesticated. And where were those 14 animals found? 13 of them were native to Eurasia. The llama was the only one from the Americas. Australia had 0. The people of Eurasia weren't better farmers. They just had better raw materials to work with. This was the first and most decisive accident of geography. This initial head start was then massively amplified by another simple geographic fact. The supercontinent of Eurasia is oriented on an east-west axis. The continents of the Americas and Africa, on the other hand, are oriented on a north-south axis. This might sound trivial, but it had enormous consequences. Geography, you know, has always played a huge role in shaping the destinies of civilizations. The lay of the land, the climate, and the way continents are arranged have all influenced how people have lived, what they've grown, and how societies have developed over time. Locations at the same latitude share the same day length and a similar climate. This means that a crop that was domesticated in the Fertile Crescent, like wheat, could easily spread thousands of miles east to China and west to Europe because it could grow in the same conditions. Innovations, ideas, and technologies could spread rapidly across the entire continent. Now think about the Americas. A crop domesticated in Mexico, like corn, had an incredibly difficult time spreading south to the Andes or north to North America because it had to cross radical changes in climate and geography. The east-west axis of Eurasia acted as a massive superhighway for the spread of crops, animals, and ideas, allowing its societies to accelerate their development at a rate that was impossible on other continents. Throughout history, germs have played a deadly role in shaping the fate of civilizations. The spread of disease has often been just as decisive as the clash of armies or the forging of steel. It's kind of wild to realize that the invisible world of microbes has had such a huge impact on who wins and who loses in the story of humanity. So we have the guns and the steel, born from the food surpluses of agriculture. But what about the germs? This is the most chilling and powerful part of Diamond's argument. Where do most of our major infectious diseases, like smallpox, measles, and influenza, come from? They are mutations of diseases that originally afflicted our domestic animals. They jumped from our pigs, our cows, and our poultry to us. Because the people of Eurasia had been living in dense, crowded societies in close proximity to their domesticated animals for thousands of years, they had developed a significant degree of immunological resistance to these diseases. When the Europeans arrived in the Americas, they brought these germs with them. The native populations of the Americas, who had no history of living with these domestic animals, had absolutely no immunity. The result was a demographic catastrophe that is almost unparalleled in human history. It is estimated that up to 95% of the indigenous population of the Americas was wiped out, not primarily by European guns or steel, but by their germs. The Europeans' deadly gift of livestock was their most powerful and unintentional weapon of conquest. In wrapping up, we reach the conclusion that marks the end of a racist idea. It's important to recognize just how far we've come in challenging old assumptions and outdated beliefs. The journey to this point has not been easy, but acknowledging these changes is a crucial step forward. So, let's return to Yali's question. Why do you white people have so much cargo? It's a simple question, but honestly it opens up a whole world of discussion and reflection. Jared Diamond's answer is a powerful and definitive rejection of all racist explanations. The answer is not that there is anything special or superior about the people of Eurasia. It's really important to understand that the roots of inequality don't lie in biology or inherent ability, but in history, geography, and environment. So the answer is that by pure geographic luck, their continent had the right raw materials for agriculture, the right axis for the rapid spread of ideas, and as a result, developed the guns, germs, and steel that allowed them to conquer other parts of the world. Guns, Germs, and Steel is a profound and humbling book. It's a work of scientific history that honestly forces us to see the deep environmental forces that have shaped the broad contours of our world. It teaches us that the world we inhabit today is the result of a long, complex, and often accidental chain of cause and effect that began thousands of years ago. It's really a powerful call for a more compassionate and less arrogant understanding of our own history and our own place in the world. This book is a journey to a higher altitude. It's, an invitation to zoom out from the small dramas of our daily lives and to see the vast, impersonal, and powerful forces of geography and history that have shaped our destinies. If you are a seeker of the big picture, a student of the deep causes that lie beneath the surface of our world, then you are a part of this grand inquiry. Consider subscribing to Geeky Philosopher, where we are dedicated to exploring the ideas that help us understand the full story of us. Thank you for being here.